month, everyone will be exploring the universe in No Man's Sky, the procedurally generated space exploration game from Hello Games. The game looks pretty incredible with its colorful graphics and randomly generated worlds. You kids these days are spoiled. Video game space exploration wasn't always this gorgeous, but there certainly was a lot of it. Going back to the late 70s and early 80s, the Atari 2600 featured a cornucopia of space exploration titles. In fact, just about every other game had space or star in the title. Space Canyon, Space Cavern, Space Invaders, Space Jockey, Space Raid, Space Robot, Space Shuttle, Space Tunnel, Space War, Space Chase, Spacemaster X7, Star Fox, not that one, Star Raiders, Starship, Star Trek, Star Strike, Star Voyager, Star Wars, Stargate, Star Gunner, and that list doesn't even include non-star space games like Asteroids, Missile Command, or Cosmic Arc. But the Atari space game that I always remember being fascinated with wasn't Asteroids or Space Invaders. It was actually this little hidden treasure from Activision. Starmaster, for use with the Atari Video Computer System. Starmaster was created by Activision. Considering Activision was responsible for several other Atari 2600 treasures such as Robot Tank, Spider Fighter, River Raid, Dolphin, Pitfall, and too many other to name, it should come as no surprise that Starmaster is an impressive feat. Let's take a look. Okay, well, this is pretty cool. The game puts you in the cockpit of a starship and actually gives you a first-person perspective. You can move around in 3 dimensions with the joystick. Let's take a moment to process that. This isn't something common in video games from that era. Whoa! That laser blast sound is freaking epic! Actually, all of the sounds here are pretty awesome. Just the sound of your ship cruising through space is very well done here. This is all fascinating, but what exactly are you supposed to be doing here? You really do need the manual to figure out what's going on. Let's check out the pilot briefing. Whoa, this is pretty intense for an Atari game. And these are only the basic instructions. There's a whole second manual, but we'll get to that later. So when you first start up the game, you're actually supposed to select your difficulty level before you hit reset. You can toggle between 4 difficulty levels using the Game Select switch on your Atari console. This brings up an entirely different screen and... wait, what? Okay, so this screen is called the Galactic Chart. We're getting serious now, folks. Each of these letters and numbers at the bottom has a function. The top letter is the difficulty level. E for Ensign, L for Leader, W for Wing Commander, and S for Starmaster. That's the hardest. Each of these difficulty levels affects the number of enemies present in the star system, as well as how hard it will be for you to evade enemies and meteors along the way. Once you've selected your difficulty setting, hit the game reset switch on your console again, and now the game officially begins. Okay, well this looks pretty cool, but now what? The next step is to plot a course going back to the Galactic Chart. But wait. How do you get back to the chart without resetting the game? There's only one button on the controller. It turns out Activision pulled off a really neat trick here. You can actually bring up the Galactic Chart again in-game by moving one of the switches on the console. The Atari 2600 features a switch on the console for toggling back and forth between color and black and white televisions. In most games, this switch simply makes an adjustment to the brightness and contrast of the game to give you the best picture possible depending on whether or not your television was color or black and white. Remember, that was still a thing in the late 70s. However, there were a handful of games that utilized this switch in an entirely different and unique way. In Starmaster, you can use the switch to toggle into your galactic chart while you're in mid-flight. This is sorta like the navigational computer in Space Quest 3, but it's on Atari. That's pretty amazing when you consider what they had to work with. The galactic chart works kinda like a grid. The 4 large dots represent starbases that you have to protect. The smaller dots represent enemy ships that you have to destroy. You can move your ship's icon around on the chart, and once you decide where you want to go, push the fire button and then you'll warp to that location on the chart. The warp sequences are pretty intense and have their own dangers. You have to dodge or destroy meteors along the way to your destination. Once you get to the enemy's location, a notification on your screen lets you know that there's enemies nearby. The bottom of the screen represents the ship's computer. If it's red, there's at least one enemy ship in this sector. Blue means you're in the location of a friendly starbase that you can dock with and protect. Green means good to go, nothing nearby. In this case it's red, so we just have to fly around a little bit until the enemy shows up. The bad guys kinda remind me of the bird of prey from Star Trek. Yeah, take that! Blowing up enemy ships is hugely satisfying, and just listen to those explosions. Just awesome. But wait a second, this number on my computer readout keeps getting smaller. Okay, so it turns out that's actually your energy reserves. Basically your fuel. If this runs out, you're dead in space. You can top off your energy by docking with a starbase. Don't worry, it's way easier than landing the plane in Top Gun. There's all sorts of other notifications on your ship's computer as well. If you take too many hits, certain letters will pop up on your ship's computer, essentially like a damage report. S means the shields are destroyed and you better get back to Starbase ASAP. L means your laser cannons are destroyed. R means the radar is destroyed and you can't see where the enemy ships are going to be on the galactic chart. W means your warp engines are damaged and your ship will consume twice as much energy when you warp to another sector. Yeah, they thought of that too. Every time you warp to another location, an indicator on your galactic chart will show you how much energy it will consume to get there, so you do have to put some thought into plotting your course. You may need to dock with a starbase along the way and refuel. Firing your weapons lowers your energy as well. This adds to the strategy and survival aspect of the game in a way I've never really seen before on the Atari 2600. You're constantly balancing all of your resources just to stay alive, but also complete your mission and destroy all of the enemy ships and protect your starbases. This whole process gets insanely addictive after just a short while. All of these variables also factor into your final score. When you beat all of the enemies in a level, you can bring up the galactic chart again to see what your score is. You get points for the amount of ships destroyed, but you also lose points for how long it takes to complete the mission. This is calculated by the stardate timer, which is always counting up on your ship's computer. You're also penalized 100 points every time you dock with a starbase. If you're going for a high score, there is some strategy to balancing all of these different situations throughout your mission, and the game rewards you for being able to avoid taking damage and needing to dock with a starbase. You also lose 500 points if the enemies blow up one of your starbases. That's another thing, the enemies are constantly moving around on the galactic chart. They can attack a starbase even if you're not there. If the enemies destroy one of your starbases off screen, you'll still hear an explosion no matter where you are. I really don't know how they programmed all of these things going on behind the scenes within the confines of the Atari 2600. It really is a marvel of programming. The lead programmer and catalyst behind Starmaster was Alan Miller. Miller originally worked for Atari making games such as Hangman, Surround, and Basketball, but when Atari refused to give on-screen credit or royalties for his work on certain games, he left Atari along with several other all-stars in the industry. It's no wonder Activision was responsible for so many fantastic Atari games with these guys at the helm. It turns out there was a significant incentive to get the high score on this game. There was a minimum score set as the qualifying standard for each difficulty level. If you managed to beat all of the enemies on any of these levels and your score qualifies, you could take a photograph of your score on the television screen, send the photo of your high score to Activision, and you would receive your very own Starmaster patch. There was one for each level. Having a patch would cement your place in the Order of the Supreme Starmaster. They even included a second manual called The Power of the Starmaster with all sorts of helpful tips and tricks to help you get the high score. There's even tips on the back of the manual from Alan Miller himself. A Supreme Starmaster will have lightning-quick reactions, a keen eye, a clear head, and the ability to remain calm and in control at all times. Ugh, No matter how hard I tried, I could not beat this game on the highest difficulty level. I'd be curious to know how you did. Were you ever able to get the high score on this game? Did you ever send in a picture and get a patch? Let me know in the comments below. Hey, thanks for watching everybody, and we'll see you next time on Friday Night Arcade.